Welcome everyone to the April UCISA-PCMG webinar. My name is Jake James. I'm a student project manager at the University of Liverpool's Computer Services Department. I'm a placed student from the university's Computer Science Department, and I've been here for 6 months now. And I'm hosting today's webinar, and we'll be talking to you about employing students in your project management team, and be looking overall at the placement student experience and what the benefits are for your department and for the students themselves. Let's kick off this webinar with this great quote from Steve Figurelli, and it says, "As educators, one of our primary responsibilities is empowerment. And what's important to understand is it's not just with our academic colleagues, but the systems and services that we provide as an IT department and as an institution. We also empower our students because we enable them to go further with their education. We enable them to use tools and services that will enhance their education and their student experience. What other ways can we empower our students? And one of those ways is by taking on your students as a placement, and that's what I'll be touching upon today in this webinar. So we'll be covering 4 main topics. So why a placement? So looking at what rationale behind the student taking a placement, and where a lot of universities are starting to put an emphasis on that direction. So the future direction of placement, how they've grown, where they're going, and the type of direction that blue organizations and other employers, the way they look at placements in the near future. So we'll look at the benefits for the department for yourselves. What will the benefits be of taking on a placement student? But we'll also look at the benefits for the student themselves. What skills will they gain? What experience will they gain? And what advantage will they have in the competitive market as it is today? And we'll also be looking at engagement strategies. So when we've had a look at the overall picture, how can you as an institution move forward and look to offer placement student a placement role if that is something that you would be interested in? Placement overview. So work placements are becoming increasingly prevalent and popular within the UK, and this can be seen over the last 10 years. In 2014-15, 153,535 students actually enrolled onto the sandwich course, and that was a massive difference from 2009-10, when only 113,795 were enrolled onto a course. As you can see, over the last few years, there has been more of a demand for a placement course, and I'll touch upon the reasons of that later on in the webinar, but have likely to have grown again in the subsequent years since 2014-15. Now, these main reasons will be that work placements offer a real-world experience in a specific industry or even in a specific role, but more importantly, it will enable students to apply their course knowledge. And a lot of the time when students will be within a lecture and they'll be learning a piece of material and they'll be like, when am I ever going to use this? Where will this apply in industry? But a work placement gives them an actual exposure as to where that knowledge will be applied is in an industrial environment. So it's a really good opportunity for them to see how their course actually applies in industry. Now, work placements typically constitute a year in a specific role and department. So, for example, myself, as I've been a student project manager and I'm here for 12 months. But you can also offer placements on a shorter course, so a 6-month placement, which has been an idea that some institutions have done, or even a 12-week placement or internship that you may wish to take on. Small bursts of experience, but it's better for students. And that win-win approach, which I'll come on to later on in the presentation. So why actually take a placement? What is the rationale behind it? So I'm going to show you 3 key figures, and I'll talk a little bit more about them. So in courses, students graduated with a 2-1 or higher in 2016. Now, this is a really important figure because most organizations or blue chip companies will require students population for employment to have a 2-1 or higher in order to progress forward in the organization. Now, if 3/4 students are graduating, that then restricts that benchmark because there's a lot of students who are on par with each other in terms of the academic grades that they have received. So what is the difference between those students, and how can the employer know that the student they'll be bringing into their organization will be bringing experience with them backed by their course knowledge? So in 2016, 87.6% of graduates were actually employed, and this would have been through graduate schemes, graduate positions, and also entry-level positions. But what's important, it's good to identify is what percentage of that, what number of students went into a higher ranking position based on their experience in industry. So who was able to go forward a few years in their career because of the experience that they had from their placement. That is a really good incentive for students to take this. This is a really good one as well. STEM graduates have higher employment rates. Now, this industry is evolving rapidly. Technology, there's new technology every month, every year. So there's always a new opportunities with STEM, and it's a common fact that computer and engineering departments have coined the phrase that they're teaching their students to take jobs that don't yet exist. So that's something that gives them an understanding of the industry environment, so that we go forward, they've had an exposure to legacy systems and like software, and they can look at how the industry is actually evolving and applying their course knowledge. Really expected in a graduate when they leave a university, and it's now recognised that a degree alone is no longer sufficient enough to actually succeed in the application process for the job market, and that's become in most employers, in which they will ask the graduate, or what experience do you have in this role, in this sector, in this industry? And a lot of graduates may not be able to completely back that up with experience that they've actually had for a long period of time. So today's job market expects graduates to have experience in the role that they're applying for, and a plan provides this, because if a student knows where they would like to go, or a specific position that they would like to aim for, an opportunity to spend 12 months or 6 months in that position gives them experience in that job, utilizing the materials that they will use, the software, the skills, most importantly, but most importantly, the tasks. So what they actually be doing that's relevant to that role. When they go for an interview at some point in their life post-graduation, they can say, I have the experience in this role, and this is how I'll be able to apply my knowledge to that. 532,000 people and 300 entered the higher education within the UK, and again likely to have increased over the last few years alongside the enrolment of students onto sandwich courses. If you think about that, if that's just how many students entered in 2015 and would have graduated 3 or 4 years later, that's 532,000 new graduates looking for a position in the job market. So again, what differentiates those students, and what will employers see in them to identify who is best for our company, but also how can they advance the business? The important one, and it's a degree must be made attractive to an employer. Now, as a student myself, I recognise that when I graduate, the degree will get a piece of paper that says I have qualified experience and knowledge in this area, in this course, so computer science. If I took that to an employer, they wouldn't really think, well, that's exactly what we're looking for. One of the things they really would want is in a specific job or industry. So a degree made attractive, and a placement offers an opportunity to enrich that, an opportunity to enhance your degree and make it more than just a qualification of your niche, but also of your knowledge and skills combined. Of placements. So this is looking at where placements are going and how institutions are starting to look at them. So institutions have started to roll out variations of almost all of their courses with a placements option, and that includes all other disciplines as well. Universities are incorporating it into their long-term strategy. So using our university as an example, the University Strategy 2026 looks to have every program a variation with a placement option and at least one timetable session in a week where they will be exposed to some form of work experience or an opportunity to actually enhance that they're learning. And for me, this is a really good approach because it shows that universities and even fee institutions are starting to understand the importance of a placement and actually what it can offer to the student. But honest, they offer a competitive advantage in the market for students immediately after graduation. And again, this is where the employer will look at them because they will get the competitive advantage over someone who may not have the experience because of what they've been exposed to and the skills that they've been able to develop over time in that placement. Offering placements. So this is on an institutional level. So due to the extensive benefits offered by placements, many HE institutions are placing an emphasis on student enrollment. And again, this can be reflected in the figures that we talked about earlier. Two main processes in regards to the offering of placements and the enrollment process. So the first one is the initial application. So when a student is in their final year of sixth form, they can enroll onto a placement course immediately through UCAS, and these will be offered there along with the alternative course without a placement. And this gives students the opportunity to choose whether they would like to go on a course a year in industry or whether they wouldn't straight away. What's been recognised is that many students have come into an institution without being enrolled in a placement course, but when they've been informed of the actual benefits, the tangible and the intangible benefits, they've wanted to change their mind. So too late for those students, really wanted to benefit from that opportunity. How can we make sure that they have the opportunity to enroll onto a placement? Where post-application has come in, and many academic departments started to introduce this, which is where students can switch programs at some point throughout the first year of their course, because they will be able to switch over to the variation with a placement, and it will notch up their learning because it's the exact same course with the same modules, and they won't lose any time or progress. So that's a really beneficial option that many institutions have started to introduce now. So we're going to look at a case study for a placement student, and the case study will be based on me. So I'm going to talk a little bit about my journey here and my experience in the university. But at the end of the presentation, if anyone's got any questions in regards to my experience, then please feel free to ask. But just going to talk a little bit about my time in the professional services environment and looking at it from the professional angle rather than the student angle. My role here, as I've said, is the student project manager, and I'm here for 12 months. Our day-to-day tasks are to play active parts in key project management tasks, so that could be stakeholder engagement, project scheduling, risk management, key project tasks that I've been able to assist with on key projects. Some of the projects I'm currently working on are the Student Record System Upgrade Project. It is the biggest business change project that the university has actually ever embarked on, and it's a privilege to be a placement student working on this project. Our compliance, so the department is currently looking as to ensuring that our systems are compliant with GDPR when it is enforced on 25th of May, and this has involved working with the team leaders for all of the business systems and input information into a CMDB. I worked with the Student Administration and Support Service as well on a project called Know-How, Centre for Academic Success. And this project was all about creating a strong study skills resource for our students to make sure that they're supported during exam season and throughout the academic year across all forms of academic work that they will engage with. So in a very student-focused project. And my point is also that connecting our campus and unifying our campus into one digital campus, and that's moving forward our digital approach to the institution. So connecting all of our outlets together using one electronic point of sale system and allowing students to use their student ID card in order to for reference and for their supplies for the university as well. But one of the newest projects I've been working on was the Virtual Learning Environment Review. So the university is currently rolling out a review to looking into its vision and the benefits, how happy students are with it, how happy academics are with it, what are the benefits, what are the things the students don't like, and that will inform us to at a later stage as to whether we upgrade in our VLE or not. But the most important thing about all of these projects overall is I'm having a positive impact on actual students themselves. So there's the illusion by some students who are worried about going on to a placement that when they go on, they will be given essentially what is an artificial world. So they will be given a piece of work to do throughout the 12 months, and they'll be okay, off you go and do that. And they won't actually be able to have an effect on the institution that they can look back and go, I actually contributed to that. But that's been the case with me and so many other placement students who are HE and who are also in the private sector, because they're actively being involved with projects that are having a positive impact on the students and on the customers. And that's a really important thing for placement providers to understand, because it motivates the students to want to get engaged and want to get involved, because they know that all of the work that they will do will have an outcome and an impact, especially a positive impact on the student population or on the customer. And that's something that really should be emphasised for students here. Okay, so after we talk a bit about the backgrounds of placements, we're now going to look at the benefits. So talking about the benefits for your students and even for your professional services teams. So what will the benefits be for both of you and how this helps to progress projects and also your department. So first we'll touch upon the benefits to the department. So there are some key benefits here. So the first one is enlisting your student support and developing student relations and also creating networking events. And it's no secret that many professional services departments have struggled with student engagement over the years. And it's maybe because of the fluid nature of the student population that always come in, because every year group that comes in, they're different in terms of their engagement, how they want to be engaged with. But it also look at how busy they are in the academic calendar, what new skills have been introduced, how much work do they actually have. And that's something that, can be overlooked at times. Unfortunately, it results in students not wanting to get involved, even with the incentives there, and it can be quite frustrating at times. But having a placement student who understands the student population, who understands the language in their mindset, can help to enhance the student relations and develop events that can target them at key times and at key areas when they know they'll be available to actually assist with key project tasks. You also work to assist on institutional objectives, so graduate development and employability, which is a big one for the institutions and their long-term strategy. That's mainly with their exposure to industry standard practices, because when they leave the institution and graduate, they will then be able to go forward with those industry standard practices they're aware of. So again, they're helping the employer to see that the student knows what's expected of them in an industrial environment. Your IT teams by absorbing contemporary technical approaches and even knowledge from your students. So many institutions are now starting to look at delivering new content. One example is that programming languages are starting to be introduced, new approaches to technology are starting to be introduced. And how can a student bring the knowledge that they learn there in your department to enhance your technology and to enhance the digital strategy that your department has? Because again, the students are in the area where they're learning all of the new benefits that come with that. This is a big one, and mainly for the department, is that you can employ students as fixed-term contract resources for projects, and that's a win-win approach. So from a department angle, you can employ a placement student for 12 months to work on a project, for example, the student record system upgrade, and they can work for those 12 months on a specific task or group of tasks. But then the student, even though they're only there for 12 months, they'll be able to learn key project management, business analysis, process improvement skills, anything that you can think of in that area, they're being exposed to and they're developing their skill set. So that's that win-win approach. And that's really key to the success of a placement student and for the department themselves. A bit granular now, and we're going to look at the example in a more contextual way, our students as project managers. So as you look here, there's a matrix that I've put together. Now, the matrix covers three key things: experience and skills that the student will learn during their time on placement. It will be so how they can assist with tangible project management tasks, and they're all the tasks that are laid on the above, and that's the project management journey that they will be exposed to throughout their time. But its coverage in an industry standard project management qualification, namely Prince 2. So if we look at the first for the students' experience and skills development, I see they're exposed to nearly all key project management tasks, so risk management, stakeholder engagement and communications, the details and project planning, budget management, supplier management, all of those key skills that are required within this position, they will be able to be actively involved with and also observe. But then we come down to project management assistance and how do they link together. So what's important with this is that on huge projects, a lot of these tasks can come down to the project manager. But with the students, project who's on their placement, can assist with these project management tasks, will enable the project manager to free up some of their time to look into other areas that may need attention. So again, it looks back at that win-win approach of both the students and the department. But then we have Prince 2 coverage at the bottom. And as you can see, that covers nearly all of the tasks that are above. It's so important because Prince2 is the de facto standard for project management in industry. And because of that, the student being exposed to those skills and two key attributes of that qualification, employers will be able to pick up on that in the application or interview process. Now, you may see the project timescales and technical planning don't have a tick in the box. The reason that I haven't put them in there is those two skills are key skills, fundamental skills really, that they will learn on their course and in their time as a student. So we'll have a dissertation at some point, or they will have had group projects or assignments, and that comes down to time management and managing the projects and their workload. But technical planning is something that you will evolve within the industry, especially on the dynamics of the project and the nature of the project. So there could be a project based on, for example, student records, or another one based on migrating systems over to Linux. They're completely different. The knowledge the student gains on their course, they will be able to apply in that sense, and they'll be able to understand how involved they need to become technically in the project for the project to actually succeed. So going on, we're going to look at this concept of agents of change, and this is actually from an article by Philip Carey from Liverpool John Moores University, and it's called The Impact of Institutional Culture, Policy and Process on Student Engagement in University Decision Making. A really good read that I recommend you look at if you're looking to develop student engagement approaches, even look at taking on students. So it has been recognised that many students do feel disengaged from consultation around major change initiatives, and these could be key business change projects that will have an impact on processes the student will engage with, or even some of the systems or services. They feel that they are not involved in the process of being able to advise on what they feel is best, and this links back to the students' availability that we've touched upon before. But allowing students to become agents of change within your institution empowers them, and that goes back to the quote from the start of this webinar as to how it's our responsibility as teachers and as professional services within a university to empower our students and make sure that they have the best skills and the best tools possible. And I'll touch upon how you can make your students change a little bit later. But it could be viewed that allowing your students to contribute to the progression of your projects makes them truly student focused, and that's a key thing for projects that are under a student journey review or that are on a student enhancement program. Students who are agents of change, who are able to come in and actually consult and advise on your projects, that is making them true student focused, and the students will be so much more pleased. And the article reference below, the impact of institutional culture, reading through that, some of the key points from when institutions have actually enhanced their student engagement, retention has gone up, attainment has increased as well. So there are a lot of other bits that come with that. I really do recommend having a read through. There's a diagram now as to how an agent of change in a particular context can have an impact on the institution, the skills that they'll also be able to learn. So we'll use the example of a student project manager who's come in for 12 months. And let's say one of the key tasks they'll be involved with is stakeholder management and engagement, because that's one of the key things that they will need to develop skills in, especially if they wanted to go into project management or, in fact, in any role in a project team. Now, these two can be split into two key areas: stakeholder engagement techniques. So based on who we're engaging with and who are the stakeholders, how can we engage with them? When should we engage with them? What is the right mechanism for engaging with them? From that, we'll infer requirements. We will be able to identify what the requirements are for the project going forward. But then that's actually one key area, and that's business analysis. So really what we're seeing is that even though the student is being engaged with in terms of key project management skills, they're also developing understanding and practical knowledge of the business analysis side and how important that area plays in the advancement of a project. But then if we move on to another area, so people and process understanding, which will lead on from stakeholder management and engagement, because you understand your people, who you're engaging with, you can understand the processes that they have to engage with as part of the project. So what they like about them, what they like about them. And then this can unlock two major areas. So improvement opportunities for existing processes. So a quick win, what do we have at the moment that we could improve on that wouldn't take too long? But also the possibility for new and efficient processes. So how can we further enhance our systems and make sure that they are better for our students also for our staff. But that touches upon process improvement. So those key areas all link together, but the student in one position has been exposed to business analysis and process improvement all as part of one. And that's one key thing that I have actually had experience with on this project and on my time as a placement student. And it's been really beneficial to see how these different areas work, but most importantly, how they interact with each other, because key things from this is that it advances student development because they learn skills in those different areas, and it's a vast array of skills that they're being exposed to and different business areas. So they were on a placement and decided that business analysis was more of a path for them, then be able to tone their career path down that route, and having that exposure to different disciplines allows them to understand more of the dynamics of a project. But then also contributes to project progression because, as mentioned before, they will be engaging in key project management tasks, but also key business analysis or process improvement tasks in helping to drive the project forward. But the future, what can this mean? So with students being exposed to these areas and being actively involved, they could make way for a student business analyst, students who will be able to come in on a 12-month secondment and work on the business analysis aspect of a project, or even a student process improvement analyst. So someone will be able to work with the PIA team and be able to understand the systems that we have and how we can improve them and drive the university forward. So just taking on a placement student, it acts as a catalyst to allow other business areas understanding where students for them would be beneficial and how they can help to drive forward the department as well. What can they actually bring? What can they bring to you? So this is going back to the agents of change example that we were speaking about before. So a change agent, what is a student change agent and what can they be? So they could be a placement student because having an actual impact on the project and they're contributing to the key tasks. It could be a student ambassador, so who's representing the university, someone on a course representative, or someone who wants to air their views on behalf of their others, or a student advisor, so someone to a student ambassador who may be elected, who the department may want to bring in to advise on specific projects or tasks. And all those can come together to make one change agent because they are helping to inform change in the institution. One of the things they can help to work on is the student engagement strategy. How can the department enhance its student relations and how can we move forward? But from that then informs the opportunities, so the student engagement events. How can we engage with students? What is the mechanism? What do and where will we do it? And from there, this is where it comes back to the project focus and the department. So a win-win approach again. It opens up business analysis and process improvement engagement opportunities for projects. And I'll touch upon as an example. So here in the university, one of the things I've been working on is the student engagement strategy for computing services. So that's how we're going to engage with the students. What do we from that? And what do we want to know? So the first event that we held as part of the new strategy was a student coffee morning in one of our libraries. And gave students the opportunity to answer a quick 5-minute survey while we provided them with a free tea or coffee, and they could provide some feedback based on the questions that we'd given. And we did get some really good responses, and we got quite a lot in the time that we were there. And one of the things that I understood was that, well, key projects such as student record system upgrade or even a VLE review, at this point they're going to need to engage with students. And coffee morning is a really popular mechanism for student engagement. So why not utilize those opportunities while they're available and allow project teams to actively get involved? So a team could use that as a conduit for student engagement, and they could gather key business analysis or process improvement feedback, and the student would be happy to get involved because that's a method that they really like to be engaged with. So that's one of the key things that a student change agent can help bring to your department. It can enhance student relations, but most of all, it can open up opportunities for your business teams. So the students, we've looked at the benefits for the department, but we're now going to look at the key benefits for the students themselves, while placement and even post-placement. So this one is it increases their chances of employment by having the 12 months worth of experience in a formal IT environment. So going back to the example before, where employers are going to want students and their prospective employees to have the experience. Their exposure to the employment and actual tasks in industry with them the opportunity to advance forward, a potential for contract extension or even employment for students, especially those who've demonstrated their ability and their skill. And again, this is the win-win approach. So students who come into a department may be able to show how quickly they've adapted to that work environment, how comfortable they are engaging with the tasks, and how they're able to actively contribute towards the progression of the project. And a lot of times this can lead to a relationship of trust with their students. So the department may want to offer students a contract after they've graduated because they're comfortable in their ability. They want them to carry on and progress forward. But most of all, they have got someone who knows the department, knows the stakeholders, and knows the processes. So being able to bring someone in with that foundational experience already, who knows the student angle of the university, but also the professional services from having the experience, incentive for the department, because they can come straight in and get straight into the role that they've been employed. Key occupational skills relevant to their career path with application of course content. So this goes back to the matrix I presented before in regards to project management. The key occupational skills relevant to that field. So how are they going to use those at some point in industry, and those skills developed. So the key occupational skills they can learn whilst on placement. But this is a big one. Students immediately become attractive to prospective employers in their given field, and that is absolutely essential because it goes back to the degree more attractive. Students will immediately become attractive because the employers will see they've got the experience and they know how to back that up with their course knowledge. So they're putting their course into actual practice. So what do placements offer overall for the department and for the students? So industry standards, exposure to them. So project methodologies, business analysis, process improvements, all those things that we've touched upon before, student will be exposed to and they will gather a good understanding of for when they go forward. Networking, and really key. So one of my opportunities while being on placement here has been to work with UCISA, the UCISA conference, and understand more about the HE community and how they work together. I've been able to network with suppliers, professional services staff, organisations, and you develop these key contacts that you can then take forwards with you at some point, who can help you later on in your professional life, who could then advise you in going forward. And the fact that you've been able to meet other people from different backgrounds on different projects, it really does open your eyes into the industry. Risk and duty. Now, this is a key one for placement students. Students who are empowered by given responsibility and given duty will feel committed to the project because they have responsibility and tasks that they will be responsible for, and it is their duty in order to keep them forward and help progress the project. This really does add extra elements and new dimension to placements because students who are on placement have a sense of responsibility and a sense of belonging to the team because they know that the work they do will have an impact on the project. And hey, insight. So as students, a lot of the time, I've only seen a university from the student angle until I came and worked in professional services, and it gives you an insight as to governance, how it works, but most importantly, what an important part of professional services play alongside the academic college within institution, and it really an eye-opener into the industry. But the biggest one is opportunity, because all of those combined together enhances their opportunity, and it enhances their opportunity for employment, for networking with key individuals, opportunity to attend a conference, to become involved in organizational activities. All these things together, a student will benefit from if they come on a placement. So lessons learned. So this is looking a bit back on my experience while being here on placement, but also looking to you. So if taking on a placement student was something you actually wanted to do and you thought that it would be beneficial to your team, this is what the approach is based on my experience here. So have a schedule ready. So my first day when I came, I had a schedule that outlined what work I would be doing, and outlined the different teams I'd be working with, the project team I'll be working with, and that normally will cover the 12 months placement. So they able to understand exactly what they'll be doing within that period of time. So know scheme of work or the project that they'll be working on. So know exactly where they'll be going, exactly what they're doing while on that project. Know your team and group, so be able to introduce them straight away to the key people that they'll be working with on a day-to-day basis. Now, equipment ready, and that's something that if they come into the departments, they'll be able to get to work straight away because they'll have all of the equipment and workstation ready to go for when they start. Put a induction and training plan. So if they're brand new to this, introduce them to the business team leaders. So introduce them to people who are to the business systems, who are responsible for business analysis or process improvement, or again, just meeting the key people that they'll be working with. But they want and know how their work relates to their course, because you want to make sure that everything that you deliver to them is delivered to their course and that they can actually apply it to their learning. You do. So if taking on a placement student is something that you'd like to do, here's some advice from experience here and being able to drive forward your placement program. Formally advertise placement student membership within your departments, because your departments can then do the work in articulating that in a specific way. So for the particular student population that they'll be addressing it for, that's one way that they will be able to attract placement students from their area. And the benefits, exposure to industry standard practices that are recognised, such as too, employment prospects afterwards, the competitive advantage in the market we spoke about earlier, the skills development, and even payment, because a lot of students overlook the fact that they will be paid for the work that they do. And again, that's more of a motivation to come placement because they understand exactly what it's like to receive a salary for a fixed position. Ensure students are aware of the intangible benefits, so networking, meeting key people, the skills that they will learn and what they gather from a placement. It's crucial to emphasise that. But getting actively involved and engaged in departmental activities. Your student engagement strategy should be looking at how you can get students involved in your projects and in your departmental activities, because if you have a positive impact with your student community, then students will be more engaged with the department and will be more likely to think of there as somewhere to placement, because it's a base where they do listen to the views of their students. That is the end of the webinar, and I do thank you all for tuning in today. We have a Q&A session now, so if anyone has any questions, please feel free and I'll be happy to answer them. Thank you. Any questions regarding the webinar or even my experience while being on placement, if you just put them in the chat, and then I'll be happy to answer them or provide a little bit of elaboration on anything you'd like to know about.
Cool. We asked if it would be possible to get a copy of the slides at the end of the presentation.
Yeah, I'll be happy to distribute the slides and the presentation afterwards. Yes, definitely.
Okay, and a question for myself. What would you say has been the most beneficial skill you've picked up during your placement?
Most beneficial skill. I think one of the most beneficial skills alongside the actual exposure to project management, it's been an opportunity to look within the professional environment as an overall and be able to assess it from a professional angle. So, for example, when you're engaging with particular individuals, one of the skills that have been really good for me is to understand exactly how to engage with them, how benefiting from the way we're engaging with them, but most importantly, what is the best way to engage with them as people. For example, who are going back to a point I raised before, who are stakeholders? So, for example, if the stakeholders are students, and the knowledge as to how to engage with them is great, because you can then help to inform the project teams. Whereas a member of senior staff, that's a complete different way to engage with them. So I think I'd say the key skill has actually the stakeholder engagement and management aspect, because that's so fundamental in many different positions across the private sector or even the institution. I've had a question from someone else. So what is the biggest benefit you will take away from your placements? The biggest benefit will be the exposure to industry in the position that I've really wanted to do. So project management for me has been something I've been really interested in for many years. Having an opportunity to actually be engaged in the process of project management and learn some key skills is the biggest benefit. Because if I have a position post-graduation for a junior project manager's position or a project support officer or a position like that, opportunity to say I've had exposure to project management practice is amazing for me. As an overall is the biggest benefit. The fact that I'm being able to take away an industry standard practices and understand them and be able to apply them to learning as well. It's definitely the biggest benefits. Closest your experience in this role met your expectations? It's met them very well. In fact, I don't actually know what I was expecting when I started placement, because it's quite a scary world when you first come in as a placement student. So, for example, you don't know exactly what type of things you'll be doing, who you're going to meet, what's the place like, what's the industry like of HE itself. When I thought about coming into the placement, or what my occasions was that the environment would be one full of passion and motivation to drive forward with a student focus at the start. So for me, the experience of this has been full to the expectations, because every person I've met with and worked with in my team has been incredibly passionate about the project itself, most importantly on the people and the impact, the positive impact that it will have. And for me, that's been really an eye-opener, and it's made me feel much more comfortable with the position. Comfortable in the sense that I was unsure what to expect, but it made me realise how important this is to me and how really I want to pursue this, because of the emphasis and the passion that people have for delivering a quality software that will have a positive impact on the students. What hasn't worked out as well as you would have hoped? Ooh, bit of a difficult question, that one. I think the things is that when I've been from a computer science background, sometimes a student may come in thinking that they know a lot already about the industry and about tech overall, but then you've come into industry and you sat in a room full of people who are of the best. Then at some point you're a bit like, okay, I'm not sure if I know exactly what's going on, but that's not necessarily a bad thing, because that just means that there's more to learn, and being open to learning and being to learn is a key skill for being on placement. Because if you're ready to learn and you're open to new things and to a challenge, because it has been full of challenges as well. There's been things I've had to learn, new things I've had to learn, new ways of doing things, and there have been challenges that I have come across. But I feel that I've overcome them through perseverance and through a passion of wanting to, because I really wanted to learn about. Okay, what has been the most difficult aspect of the placement where you feel you needed the most support? Funnily enough, I say the clinical side of things, going back to the last question. So as I said, a lot of people come into the industry from the basics of what I've learned, which has been quite in depth, but it's been a practice here for quite a long time, and obviously there's a lot more to learn in industry than we taught, and that's just something that you'll build upon through your time in a career. So I think at times it's been understanding the exact technical nature of certain things, and it's been able to follow exactly the conversations what have been going on. But the best thing about this position is that you're encouraged to ask questions. And then on a placement, being able to ask questions and ask silly questions as well is the best thing ever. Because I feel that if I don't understand something, I can just say, "Excuse me, what's that?" And I will happily be answered. And that even though it's been difficult sometimes understanding exactly what has been going on originally, I'm able to understand through a good explanation of it, and definitely say that. Oh, what pay do you want? So, I've forgotten the grade. Salary figure. So, standard placement salary for a student is around 18,000 for the year. And that's quite a good wage for a student on placement, specifically in the HE sector. So for me, it's been quite rewarding in terms of experience as well, but to actually receive a good pay and good salary as well, for me, it's acted as a motivation to understand, if I, really do work hard in your final year at university, this is what you achieve times, if you work hard. So for me, that's acted as a really big incentive and motivation to carry on and keep progressing forward and show my skills, what I've developed here. That's really all I've got to say on that. Do you think your experience working as a junior PM has changed what type of job you will target when you graduate? No, it hasn't. So a family who were project managers at one point. I was an IT project manager. And I'd spoken to him about his role and what he did, and from just that brief conversation, it excited me, the thought of a project manager, in what they actually, the responsibility that they have, the duty that they have, going back to that before, what the expectations are. But most importantly for me, the fundamental thing about being a project manager and having the experience as a manager is, I'm very passionate about is quality delivery with anything, and making sure that the people we're doing something for are always benefited in the long run. So for me, no involved in projects that are halfway through. Some projects I've seen to the end whilst being on placement, and for me, it's made me want the job even more when I graduate and go to a project management position, because of the which you can actually help to benefit the students or the customer, however you wish to say it, at the end of the project. And that's just that from one angle. So from a business analyst point of view, they may see it as, it's amazing that they've been able to gather the requirements and understand exactly what people need, because they've been able to help understand what people need and feed that into the project. But from being a student project manager and understanding the responsibility they have, it honestly excited me to this job when I graduate and learn as much as I can and go on learning so that I can advance in this position after graduation. Yeah. As well. Thank you. Is anyone else other questions? Okay. Well, once again, I'd like to thank you for tuning in today. I'll be happy to distribute the slides. It's been a privilege to present this webinar, and thank you again. Thanks very much.